Today on CityLine, a new and powerful youth-led movement in the Bay State, and immigrants in Massachusetts are contributing to their new home. Hello everyone, I'm Holmes-Ward. Welcome to CityLine. Imagine living in Massachusetts your whole life, yet being viewed as an outsider, unable to get a license, a job, or even go to college. Your life would be at a standstill. Well, this is the reality for approximately 2 million undocumented youths living in the United States today, who, despite viewing themselves as Americans, have a status that says otherwise. They may be young, but they're proving to be wise beyond their years. Meet the dreamers.
Come on, guys. We're undocumented, and I'm not afraid. Undocumented.
Undocumented youth are immigrants who were not born in the United States, but have resided here for most of their lives.
In many ways, we're emblematic of the struggle of undocumented immigrants, young people who are in this country, who are talented, who are motivated, who are hardworking, and who are facing an absolutely broken system.
Carlos Rojas Alvarez immigrated from Medellin, Colombia when he was 5 years old. He's one of many undocumented youths in Massachusetts leading the immigration rights movement.
We lived in a city that had been devastated by drugs and violence and poverty. My mother was forced to make a decision whether she was going to allow me to live that life or if she was going to fight to provide me a better one.
Like every other undocumented immigrant, Carlos lives with the fear of being deported from the country he considers his home.
You think about it when you're driving. If anyone gets stopped in that car and I get asked for documentation, I could be on a plane back to Colombia any day.
Carlos' concerns did not stop there.
I have a particular memory of being up at like 3 a.m., finishing homeworks, and just all of a sudden thinking, what am I doing this for? I'm not even going to be able to go to college. And I don't think you can blame young undocumented students from feeling discouraged about it, because we are living in a system that is cutting us off from opportunity.
Even if an undocumented student has lived in Massachusetts their entire life, they're required to pay out-of-state tuition, which can be double, even triple the cost of in-state tuition, putting their dream of college just out of reach. Change was on the horizon. In 2012, the Obama administration created the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA, a federal program undocumented immigrants can apply to that would allow them to remain in the U.S. for 2 years without fear of deportation, as well as apply for a work permit. Immigrants who move to the U.S. before the age of 16, are 30 years old or younger, are a high school graduate, in college, or served in the military, and don't have a serious criminal record are eligible. In Massachusetts, DACA recipients are now able to pay in-state tuition rates. However, there are still many shortcomings with the program. The application alone comes with a hefty price tag, a fee of $465.
We have a large number of undocumented immigrant youth who are fully eligible, would qualify in an instant, who haven't yet applied because they don't have the money.
Don't become a victim of dishonest immigration consultants known as notarios. Learn
to make matters worse, mere months after DACA went into place, undocumented immigrants were targeted by some who were falsely promising to expedite their application for an extra fee.
But we faced, a flurry of, unfortunately, unscrupulous lawyers, as well as notarios who wanted to profit off of the desperation of our communities to get their children into this program.
It's a very interesting case.
Well-intentioned lawyers, like those at the Brazilian Immigrant Center, have stepped up to help undocumented student immigrants apply for DACA. Marcella Coyne is an immigration lawyer for the center.
We will meet with them and tell them, if they are eligible.
Many have found that this program can leave some families heartbroken.
We do see some families where one person does qualify for DACA and the other does not.
Such was the case with Sam, an undocumented immigrant and volunteer with the Mirror Coalition. She was 16 and a half when she moved to the United States. Her brother qualified for DACA, but she did not. She just missed the age limit by 6 months.
For the first time in 24 years, our lives went different pathways. Oh, there's nothing that I can do because people keep telling me, dead in line, dead in line, dead in line. If they tell me where the line is, I'll be the first one to dead in line.
Sam was able to find an organization that was willing to help, the Massachusetts Immigrant and Refugee Advocacy Coalition.
Every time I talk about DACA, I get really emotional. And they always tell me it's okay. And like I had ICE knocked on my door last year. And who were the first people that I called? Mira.
Good afternoon, this is Shannon.
Mira is just one organization in Boston that is working to help undocumented immigrants. Shannon Irwin is their state policy director.
Immigrant youth, like all youth who have lived here for a long time, consider Massachusetts their home. They want to contribute, and it makes sense for us to allow them to do that.
Shannon, along with others, have testified in hopes of passing the tuition equity bill, which would allow anyone who's attended a Massachusetts high school for 3 years and graduated to pay in-state tuition rates as long as they meet other criteria. Unfortunately, despite having strong support, the bill did not pass.
The Committee on Higher Education sent the tuition equity bill to study, which is kind of a polite, a diplomatic way of basically ending the bill's chances of advancing this session.
According to an analysis by the Massachusetts Taxpayers Foundation, the benefits of tuition equity are more significant than critics believe.
It would cause students who are currently not attending college at all because they just simply can't afford it to pay the in-state rate. The bill would bring millions in revenue to Massachusetts.
Carlos, hungry for higher education, decided to take action. He began volunteering for the Student Immigrant Movement, or SIM, a completely youth-led movement based out of Massachusetts that fights for immigration reform. At the age of 20, he is now the campaign coordinator.
We can actually change the situation that we're in, that we don't just have to go along with it.
It was because of the persistence of SIM that DACA was created.
It's the biggest win in immigration law here in the United States in 26 years since the 1986 Immigration Reform Bill. It was won by young people like me.
SIM's annual SIM Camp event keeps the numbers growing.
They all lead up to really being able to transform the way that undocumented young people and their families see themselves. Going from feeling like criminals and actually being criminalized by the country to feeling empowered.
Members of SIM are putting Congress on notice. They're holding them responsible for the slow move towards immigration reform.
These people are facing an increasingly powerful movement being led by young people who are completely motivated and dedicated to shaping the world and shaping this country the way that we want it to be.
Coming up, some view them as America's job takers, but numbers prove they're the job makers. Stay tuned. Welcome back. From innovative technology to delicious delicacies, it's no secret that immigrants have introduced a wide variety of products into the Commonwealth. But what many don't know is just how vital they've become for economic growth. We're talking about immigrant entrepreneurs, and they've taken Massachusetts by storm. Meet just a few of these foreign-born innovators who are using their businesses to give back to the Bay State. According to the Immigration Policy Center, in 2010, 17.5% of business owners in Massachusetts were foreign-born. New immigrant entrepreneurs also generated $2.8 billion in total net business income. Yet many still believe that immigrants are the job takers when they are the job makers. The Immigrant Learning Center is a nonprofit organization in Malden, Mass. that has been helping immigrants for 21 years. Diane Portnoy co-founded the organization and in 2003 created the Public Education Institute to educate people on how essential immigrants are for economic growth.
After 9/11, there was rising anti-immigrant sentiment in the country, and they were painting immigrants as economic social drains on the...
Dr. Marcia Drew Hone is the director of the Public Education Institute.
So we began commissioning research studies about immigrants to document their economic and social contributions. And our work rapidly started to focus in on immigrant entrepreneurs because that's where you can clearly show the economic and social benefit.
Immigrant entrepreneurship can be split up into 4 broad categories. There are the neighborhood businesses.
There are the grocery stores and the restaurants and all those businesses that make up the fabric of a neighborhood. And they have been credited with having revitalizing neighborhoods that have been in long-term economic decline.
Then science and technology.
Science firms are the ones who are doing research and product development that applies to human health. The technology people are more sort of generally technology to improve the quality of people's lives. What's really important is that they are keeping Massachusetts on the cutting edge of innovation.
And growing businesses.
They're a little more hidden. They tend to be concentrated in transportation and food services.
All right, so these are the akara, right?
No surprise there, Boston celebrates its diversity with a wide array of ethnic food. Many of the restaurants are owned by immigrant entrepreneurs, such as Suya Joint, located in Roslindale. It's Boston's only stop-off for authentic Nigerian cuisine.
I want like the African cuisine as well to be at the shelf at the grocery stores too. So I'm working to push the culture, the cuisine, and just the family orientation as well.
Nigerian chef Cecilia Lizat is the owner and operator of Suya Joint. She immigrated to the United States from Nigeria in 1999 and in 2012 realized her dream of opening a restaurant.
Right now, I'm the only Nigerian restaurant in Boston.
Cecilia learned to cook the majority of her food from her grandmother.
And I'm not following any kind of recipe that it's been written down. It's just like making the food and then testing it and serving it to the customers, yeah.
The Immigrant Learning Center has found a way to honor many of these entrepreneurs through an annual Entrepreneur Awards dinner. Mahmoud Jaffrey was one of the immigrant entrepreneurs awarded for outstanding neighborhood growth in 2013 by the center.
I was honored. I was shocked to hear about it. As far as I'm concerned, I was just doing my job.
Born in Pakistan, he has enriched Massachusetts not with his country's food, but their art.
Be able to build bridges between the two worlds has always been a passion of mine. And the fact that I'm in a business that allows people to open up a window of another culture, another country, another tradition, another art form was also helpful. Rugs happen to be our expression through decorative art.
Mahmoud immigrated to the United States at the age of 20 and spent years building up his business.
I started this business like most immigrants in a very humble manner. I literally started this business like Steve Jobs out of my garage.
Mahmoud was given the honor to speak at the swearing-in of new citizens at Faneuil Hall back in February of 2014, where more than 350 people became U.S. citizens.
It wasn't too long ago that I was on the other side, taking the oath, and this time I was on the other side, administering the oath along with Judge Bailey. Only in a place like America would be that within one generation, within my own time, a landed immigrant is in a position to be on the other side and be part and parcel of the American society and the American dream.
The American dream is the promise of the opportunity for success in this country. Immigrants come from all over the world in hopes of achieving it.
In my opinion, the American dream is alive and kicking, especially for immigrants that are looking to work hard, learn system, and state-by assistance.
Rafael Guzman is the owner of RM Technologies, a contracting company specializing in environmental remediation and demolition. He came to the United States at the age of 15.
I came here without nothing. My parents came here without nothing. We come from very, very humble upbringing from the Dominican Republic. What you call a misery lifestyle, because we didn't have anything.
He was also recognized by the Immigrant Learning Center for outstanding business growth.
When I picked up the company, revenue was less than $1 million a year. Today, revenue, I could say, is around $9 million a year.
Rafael always tries to hire people from the surrounding community of Lawrence, which has been hurting economically.
This last year, we employed over 200 people. The year before, so it's been increasing gradually. I want to make RM Technologies one of the biggest employers in the city of Lawrence, which needs jobs.
Immigrants like Rafael, Cecilia, and Mahmoud have done their best to contribute to the country they now call home. However, despite all the good that they do, it doesn't seem to reduce much of the anti-immigrant resentment that still exists.
I know that many Americans who fear for their economic future often look for scapegoats for people to blame. And, that's certainly understandable. And the evidence is all to the contrary, however. They're expanding the pie.
Up next, we've talked about the many ways that immigrants help us. So how can we return the favor? Stay tuned. Welcome back. Moving is never easy, especially when it's to an entirely different country. From having to learn a whole new language to adapting to a foreign culture, the pathway to citizenship can be a bumpy one. Two organizations in Boston are working to address the needs of our city's growing immigrant population. In this studio, we're joined by Alejandra Senguyen. She's director of the Office of New Bostonians, and Chao Ming Lee. He's the executive director of the Asian American Civic Association. Let's welcome them both to the program. Alejandra, let's start with you. Tell us about the Office of New Bostonians and what kinds of services you provide there.
Sure, absolutely. So the Mayor's Office of New Bostonians in the city of Boston, we work as a navigator both internally and internally across departments to make sure that all the services, city services, are accessible to our immigrant and non-English speaking population. And we work very closely within the community with our community-based organizations like AACA to make sure that they understand, how to access city services.
And tell us what the Asian American Civic Association does.
We generally provide English language training, skill training, and social service, helping immigrant different kind of areas such as immigration, housing, employment, a lot of those kind of services that we directly provide to them.
Now, the name suggests that you serve just the Asian American community, but that's not the case, is it?
It's very deceptive. I mean, we have grown from only Chinese, then in the 80s to Asians, and now we have, students coming from more than 86 countries.
My goodness gracious.
And, from Ethiopia, Nigeria, Albania, Morocco.
Yeah, I visited recently, and I was struck by how diverse the classes were and how much they expanded to include. And I think immigrants, they know, when something is good, when something's going well, you tell your friends, your family, and then everybody goes.
What is the biggest challenge that a brand new immigrant to Boston faces, and how do both of your organizations help them get past that?
Well, I think, when the organization founded in 1967, they realized the first thing is really to learn English. To them, to our forefather, English is the foundation to come to a new society and settlement. And as a result, we have this English as second language training for the past 47 years. And we do have a very large waiting list. We have more than 300 students coming every day to learn. And we find that, English is such an important aspect in their daily life because, learning English can help them to avoid any possible social isolation. They make friends. And the other thing also is that with more English and a skill set, they can advance in the earning power. I mean, the statistics show that, people knowing English can make about 38,000, according to census, but people with limited English can only earn about 14,000, so there's a big gap. And in fact, our statistics from last year show that, 86% of our graduates from our skill training program and from our educational program, the wage earning after graduation, the difference is about 18,000 a year. So it's very significant.
Right. And what's one of the biggest barriers you hear about?
Right. Well, I would say, similarly, obviously, English language learning, immigrants come from different countries with a diverse range of backgrounds. So you might have highly skilled immigrants who come who already speak English but don't have, they haven't been trained in the United States, so have to go through a recertification process, and how difficult and complicated that is. You have those highly skilled immigrants that come and don't know English, and then they learn English and still have to go through the process. You also have immigrants who come who might have limited learning in their own countries, and then that's a whole set of issues. For us, greatly, being able to navigate city services is something that we see, and we work with. That's why we work so closely with our community-based organizations, because they are really the starting point for most immigrants who come to the United States.
Boston is known as a city of neighborhoods. We celebrate all the different cultures that we have here. Is there any danger or downside to becoming too assimilated to Boston?
No, I don't think so. I think, the beauty of this country is really, the diversity, the different characteristics, from cultural aspects or linguistic perspective. I think what immigrants, probably, learn, the value of this, country is really how to tolerate different cultures, how to so-called coexist and respect each other. I mean, we have different kind of people from different countries. They come together, they talk, they feel, wow, I never know that, I can be able to communicate with some other people, learning their culture. And at the end of every, cycle of study, they all come together, they're potluck, they bring their own food, they bring, different kind of costume in. I think that's exciting. And I don't believe that, the learning English is really, downgrading the importance of their own distinctive culture.
Right.
And in fact, I think, every immigrant coming to this country expect to learn some English to some extent.
Right. And I think also, the idea that being American or being tied to your immigrant culture are two necessarily opposite things, and that's not true. I think that's a false dichotomy where, being American has always been about celebrating your heritage and your culture, and even way back, even 1776, you could hear 20 languages being spoken. So I don't think, immigrants who come here, the people are not necessarily tied to their citizenship status as to whether or not they are American or not.
All right, and that's what America's all about. Thanks to you both for coming to talk about the Asian American Civic Association and the Mayor's Office of New Bostonians. If you or someone you know is eligible to sign up for DACA, or you want information on transitional services, visit our page at wcvb.com and follow me on Twitter at Karen holmes-ward. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Have a great rest of your day and take care.